Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Happy Monday. Or is it really happy? The weekend's over. We got to start the whole week over again. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in for today's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. Of course, I am here along with my co-host with the co-most, Fuzzy Belvedere. What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
Oh, feeling great. Sorry about this. Trying to get everything set up after being on the road is
Oh,
a
that's all
little
right, brother. You
tricky.
sound good. You look good. The bald head is spectacular. So, how you feeling? How was the trip?
Oh, it was great. Got to see a lot of people at the HorrorCon.
Nice.
Wife is
Awesome.
working on a script for an upcoming movie, but don't expect anything before 2027. But
Right, listen, you know what? That's all right. The fact that she got the opportunity is, well, there it is.
yeah. But
Well, listen,
so glad
we're
be
happy to
here.
have you here, brother. Glad that you enjoyed your trip. Thanks for sharing some of the pictures. That was kind of dope on the behind the scenes stuff when they were filming. That's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing. Speaking of sharing, I shared it on social media yesterday. To our surprise, we got a notification from vidIQ, which of course is a service as part of YouTube. I pay for this service. It helps us out with the algorithm. It helps us out with creating titles and doing a bunch of checks on the back end. And it's worth every penny. If you're a YouTuber, vidIQ is definitely worth your money. We were notified that the channel in 7.5 years has surpassed 7.5 million views. Considering we're not even at 16,000 subscribers, which, by the way, we'll get to that in a second. Those are legit. Those are legit. Put your nose to the grindstone and work. And you know what? We wouldn't have those numbers without you fine folks that are in the chat right now. We already have 150 people here. We're 2 minutes into the show, and I remember it would take us an entire show to get 150 people in the chat. And now we're averaging anywhere between 500 and 700 per live stream, which is a really big deal because, again, we're still a relatively small channel. So Mrs. Boomstick and I want to, offer our thanks to you because, again, without having an audience that actually likes listening to what we talk about, there'd be no 7.5 million views. So thank you so much for that. And speaking of where we are on the 16K watch, we are 51 subscribers away, ladies and gentlemen, from 16K. If there are any new viewers today, we of course ask that you consider subscribing. And of course, if you're feeling super extra generous, you hit the bell icon to know every time I go live. And well, that's easy because I live stream Monday through Friday. And one of the things that we strive as being not different than other channels, just we have a certain way of doing things where we don't use hate mongering to garner new views, new subs, and new likes, right? Like we don't do that. Are we pointed? Sure. But we do not use hate mongering and bullying and making fun of others to get people to subscribe. That's just not our bag. And again, if it takes us 100 years to get 25K, then that's what it's going to take. But we're doing it the right way, at least in my opinion. So thank you to everyone that has supported the channel now, back in the days, and in the future. We definitely appreciate all the support. But we have 3 massive topics. This show is going to go a little longer than the 70 minutes. I told Fuzzy expect about a 90-minute show, and I think that we're going to get there because over the weekend, there's just news bombs left, right, and center, Fuzzy. It's just one news bomb after another, and we had 3 pretty big ones. Now, the first one that we're going to open up with comes the way of Pure Xbox. Now, PureXbox.com is a website. They are an Xbox, centric channel. They posted a story the other day by Fraser Gilbert. It was posted on Friday at 2 p.m. And the title of this is Multiple Xbox-related Showcases Officially Confirmed for Next Month. And it says, get ready for a busy SGF 2025. Of course, that is the Summer Games Fest that is centered around Jeff Keighley. Now, I have a thought and a theory to why this is actually happening, Fuzzy Belvedere in chat. But before I get to that theory, I do want to read a little bit of the story to give, of course, Fraser the credit where credit is due. And he goes on to say in the story, and I am reading verbatim, folks. It's almost that time of the year again. The Xbox Game Showcase 2025 is just around the corner. As a matter of fact, folks, it is exactly 20 days away, just a pinch under 3 weeks away. And he goes on to say, and it's set up to be joined by a barrage of other showcases at the same time, many of which will feature Xbox related reveals as well. Now, this is something that we had heard, and this will roll what he said in the opening part of the article is what's going to roll us right into my thought and my theory. But I want to continue reading it because, of course, we want to support the article writer. He says this is all part of the Summer Games Fest season, previously known as the E3 season, with pretty much every showcase taking place within just a few days or even a few hours of each other. It all kicks off with Summer Game Fest live on June 6th, which of course is Friday, while other particular notable events include the Future Game Show, the PC Gaming Show, and it says this in parentheses, hopefully featuring some PC Game Pass reveals, and the yet-to-be-announced Ubisoft Forward Show. Obviously, the main event for us is the Xbox Showcase, though followed by the Outer Worlds 2 Developer Direct. We're going to provide a more comprehensive look of all of next month's Xbox-related showcase nearer to the time of when they will be announced. But for now, here is what has been confirmed for Summer Game Fest 2025. So I'm going to read you the listed shows, folks, and we're going to get into the thoughts and theories. They have the Access and Ability Summer Showcase, Summer Games Fest Live, which of course is Jeff Keighley's joint, Day of the Devs, Wholesome Direct, Future Game Show, the Xbox Game Showcase, and the PC Gaming Showcase. That is what's happening that weekend in between Friday and Sunday. That is a lot of shows with a couple of more potentially being announced. Remember, there is no Nintendo show, and that's for obvious reasons, Fuzzy Belvedere. Well, 2 days before I fly out, the Nintendo Switch 2 is releasing on June 5th. So, of course, that there's no Nintendo show, obviously. The PlayStation show, it's unlikely you're going to get anything. They are really having a time at PlayStation Nation with everything that's going on with the Jade Raymond story that we covered on Friday, followed by some additional information with the public announcement and acknowledgement of the assets of the art that were stolen. Well, Bungie has taken full responsibility for it. I don't know what that means for the artist. Hopefully that means getting paid. Though this is the fourth time that this has happened. And look, folks, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but when you take what happened with Marathon's Alpha, which most people came away unimpressed and unenthused, then you have the fact that this is going to release at a premium price. There was a story that dropped. We're not covering it here today. I think we may cover it tomorrow, where the developers of this game, Marathon, and the developers at Bungie told new management when they made some changes that this game was not ready and that they needed to add it to do things, and they put the block hand on them and said, no, we're going to do it this way. And right now it's not in good shape. That game is probably getting delayed. And I don't want to say canceled, but I will say that with all of the craziness that's going on at PlayStation, and the fact that there is no roadmap, it is unlikely that they're going to actually have anything ready to show for a showcase. But getting back to what we're talking about, here's my thought and theory. Fuzzy Belvedere in chat. So, Fuzzy, walk with me on this. If there's one thing that we can immediately point out with Xbox Game Studios, it's that they have at least 30 studios that we know of, right? That is at least 30. They could have additional studios that they have acquired and not announced. Obviously no announcements were made. Maybe we get an announcement or 2 or 3, like we saw back in E3 of 2018, where they announced all of these studios that are now releasing games, this year. I don't know if that's going to happen. Obviously, they're I don't say they're not out of the woods with the FTC. They're pretty much done with it, but I don't think they're going to make any big moves, at least until that is definitely just the paperwork has just been shredded. But they are working with studios that at least I feel need to be added to Xbox Game Studios because of the significant first-party games that they're working on. Crystal Dynamics is obviously working on Fable, and Eidos Montreal is helping with Perfect Dark. These are 2 monster-sized rebooted games that are going to have sequels. They may have trilogies. They may have 5 in the series. They're going to want this same team that has already, what we've seen so far, very impressive. I don't think you want to start off with new devs. New devs mean new ideas that may not work, and you don't want to do that. So I say lock up these 2 studios. But here is my thought and theory to why we go right back and why we're covering this story to open up the today's podcast, and that of course is the story from PureXbox.com. And Fuzzy, I think that after what happened last year, remember when they showed they had they had what I believe to be a 12 out of 10 showcase last year. I know that there's going to be somebody in the audience that's going to try and push back and be like, no, Boom, it was a 6.5 for me. Well, first of all, then you have no eyes, and maybe you need to get your eyes checked because that was a 12 out of 10. Now, the running rumor, for at least I have heard personally, is that this show is going to up the ante. I don't know how that is or how it's even possible, but that is the rumor. So now we're hearing that Xbox first-party games are going to show up at some of these other events. And I would imagine that there's going to be 1, maybe 2 surprises at Summer Games Fest. Now, I know a lot of people in the chat are kind of with me on this. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Xbox needs Jeff Keighley. I'm not being rude or disrespectful. I think the way he has positioned himself as being Sony focused, I think that whenever he does have Xbox stuff, it's either done in a way that feels disingenuous or unenthusiastic. So I'm not about that life, and I don't think Xbox should have to go to him. But this is where I kind of feel Xbox could use Jeff Keighley, because all eyes are going to be on Summer Games Fest. There's no doubt about it. It's a widely viewed show. So instead of Jeff using Xbox, I think Xbox should use Jeff. And that's what they might do here. But it might not just start and end with Jeff. It may have 1 or 2 games at each one of these events. And why is that? This is my theory, folks. They have too many freaking games in development, Fuzzy Belvedere. It's crazy how many games they're working on. Let's get your thoughts onto this.
Well, I like the idea of using Jeff Keighley, just for the fact that with them doing this more multi-plat scenario on some of their upcoming software, like, just like with Doom, just like with, Tony Hawk and stuff like that, I say definitely put those games there because more eyes are going to be on that as far as an overall showcase for games. So having those games that will be available in other places would make most sense. But for the ones that are going to be, whether they're timed exclusives or just at the moment only on Xbox, save those for the June showcase. But there's going to be stuff, like you said, for the accessibility showcase. A lot of developers are now paying attention to a wider variety of gamers that may have other needs as far as being able to either adapt to those games or being able to access those games. And I love the progress that's being made with a lot of the big AAA developers, as well as Microsoft in-house, as far as the things that they're doing, whether it's from language or visuals or audio stuff. It's always a big step for them to take that and put those in full display for, gamers that may not know that those games are, readily accessible for them. The same thing with the PC or the computer game showcase, which we know they're still trying to chip away at like the Steam overall, you know, I guess piece of the pie. I don't think they'll ever do it, but having some of their games show there that will be available on Epic or available on Steam as well as in, you know, Xbox Game Pass makes sense. Like a lot of the RTSs are, I wouldn't say targeted towards PC players, but PC players are more, you know, ready or readily, you know, willing to play a RTS more so than console, although they are making ground in the console space. But having a game like that show there definitely makes sense. So that way, that's added to a wish list, whether it's on Steam or, you know, they subscribe to PC Game Pass. You know, looking forward to that one coming out either later this year or next year. Makes sense. But yeah, Keighley being the go-to person for the most part in place of E3, let's say, it definitely makes sense to use them, and then use them again later on in the year for the Game Awards, because I'm pretty sure at least one of Microsoft's first-party studios are going to, you know, be nominated for a game in there. But along with that, maybe show off that handheld if they haven't done so, you know, prior to that, or show maybe, you know, an inkling of the next generation console, much like they did with the series consoles and stuff. So they can definitely put his you know, his audience to good use by putting some of their titles over there. And I'm not the biggest fan of them, given how the Game Awards seems to work. I don't. It's not that I don't trust the judging aspect, but the voting aspect seems like they play it fast and loose sometimes with categories and such. But when it comes from a marketing standpoint, yeah, by all means, let Xbox put, you know, all of that attention to his shows, whether it's Summer Games Fest or the Game Awards at the end of the year. Put that to full use and get those games out there in front of people. I mean, the key thing, like with the Developer Direct, you had like gems in there, like Clair Obscur, Expedition 33.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot more smaller dev things that are going to be day and date in Game Pass that deserve that spotlight. And if it has that tag to it saying it's in Game Pass, well, you know, the Xbox platform, you know, players will definitely either wind up picking it up or playing it through Game Pass, or a bit of both, as much of us do, whether it's an upgrade or just buying it outright, even though it's in the service. I think this is going to be the time where Xbox is pretty much, I mean, in all honesty, they could probably hold their own E3 considering how many studios and projects they have in the works. But, you know, mixing it in a lot of those other showcases, you know, sprinkling in some of the items that may not have fit into that hour and a half to 2 hour showcase between that and the Outer Worlds 2 makes all the sense. Because like Booty said a while ago, they got so many games that they don't know how to, you know, show them to the audience, and they're going to have to figure out, you know, multiple shows throughout the year. So definitely makes sense for them to spread some of those things out.
Well, I mean, look, one of the big takeaways from last year is you heard Phil in multiple interviews basically come out and say, Fuzzy, that they had to shorten the show, right? And folks, I'm not kidding you. Go look for it. I mean, I could pull it up easily, but we're doing it live, so I can't right now. They cut down at least 45 minutes of show. That, how many games could you show in 45 minutes? 10, maybe, right? So maybe some needed more time and they didn't want to show it off. The truth of the matter is this. This showcase is probably going to be about 90 minutes, give or take, right? Like maybe 100 minutes. You know, maybe you get an hour and 8, maybe an hour and 10 worth of the Xbox game showcase, followed right into a 20-something, 30-something minute dev direct for the Outer Worlds 2, right? That's probably what it's going to look like. It may be $130, it may be $140 after it's all said and done. But needless to say, they're in such an amazing position where many years ago, and listen, folks, you got to remember that when people used to troll and said Xbox had no games, there was some truth to that, right? You know, and there was some truth to only having the, you know, the trinity of Halo, Gears, and Forza, right? But this is why this show is going to be crazy. All right. So we still are only in the 5th month of the year, and they have already released more games than Sony has done probably in 3 years. Right? Like, let that sink in, folks. More games in the first 5 months of Xbox first party than Sony has done in 3 years. That's not a dig. That's not console warring. That is hashtag facts. Okay? And they have so many games that they're cooking right now that we know about. They still have to fill up the second half of the year, right? Like, we know some. Outer Worlds 2, check. We just got a confirmation from Charlie Intel that the Black Ops game is, in fact, going to take place in 2035 and is a direct sequel to Black Ops 2, right? That was what was reported today. We'll probably go into that tomorrow and get more deets on that, right? So that's 2 games. But you also have Gears of War in August, right? Gears of War Reloaded, right? That might actually be having a beta. Shadows just did a video which I watched earlier, which was excellent, suggesting that they will be a beta for PlayStation, PC, and Xbox before its release in August 26th. That's a 3rd game, right? There's also the Fallout 3 Remastered. That's 4 games. That's without Clockwork Revolution, which we all think is going to show up. That's 5 games. Think about the madness that I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not only do they have to show what's happening for the remainder of this year, usually these shows show what's happening in 2026. And right now, let's break down 2026, the ridiculousness, right? So we all believe Forza Horizon 6 in Japan is happening. That's next year. Now, I'm saying Japan because I am pressing on the goodwill of the gaming gods. That's where they go. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have Forza, right? Mm-hmm. Forza Horizon 6 is probably coming next year. State of Decay 3 probably coming next year. That's 2 big ones, right? Throw another Call of Duty, whatever that's going to be, Modern Warfare, whatever, right? That's 3 games.
Yeah.
What else do they have on the slate? Well, Perfect Dark, is that 2027? Maybe, right? Why rush that?
Mm-hmm.
Clockwork Revolution, if it doesn't show up this year, which I think it is next year. So it's either this year or next year. It's going to be a banger, folks. It's in Exile. They just know what they're doing, right? Help me out here, Fuzzy. What am I missing from first party?
Well, Fable got pushed to 26.
Oh, that's it. Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you.
So that's probably going to be one of the big ones for next year. And then we've already seen like the postings from Ninja Theory. So maybe Project Mara's end of this year or early next year. But Project Mara or something from Ninja Theory is more than likely going to make an appearance.
Gears of War E-Day. How did I forget that? It's on the goddamn thumbnail. I mean, can we just stop, folks? Can we stop right there? 2026. And so again, I'm getting hyped, folks. Mm-hmm. Why am I getting hyped? Because I'm a nerd. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm an Xbox fanboy. So be it. You have all of those games on top of celebrating the 25th anniversary of the platform and the 20th anniversary of Gears of War, right? Those are 2 massive celebrations that are happening. And again, we did originally think there was going to be hardware. I think hardware would have been so perfect to line up with that, but it's not happening. Now, we know the hardware is 27, so be it, fine. But is the handheld locked in? Or is that something that could drop next year as well? We don't know. All I know is that they already delivered in the biggest way possible in 2025. Second half is going to be monstrosity. It's going to be like the size of a monster, Godzilla-sized, right? And we're talking 2026 here, which we expect to show up in a big way. And I don't know, Fuzzy, if 60 or 75 minutes is enough to show what's happening in this year and potentially the half of the opening salvo of 2026.
Yeah.
That's why these other shows might have some of these games, because you got to remember, even though this is Xbox first party, they got to throw some partnered stuff in there as well.
Mhm.
So this is where you're going to get some new games that are confirmed for Game Pass day and date that we didn't know were happening from Dev
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. Right? They gotta sprinkle those in there. And that's why I think that you could have some pretty massive reveals at least Jeff's show. I think Jeff's show is good for one, maybe two. And I
Yeah.
really do like the idea. Instead of him using Xbox, use his ass.
Yeah.
Sorry. And any additional context you want to add to the conversation before we get to topic number 2?
I think the one thing that we've kind of forgotten about is how Xbox does the continuing support for a lot of their titles. Now, I know a lot of
Holy
people may
crap,
not be
yep.
looking forward to like another Sea of Thieves update, but the Sea of Thieves fan base is definitely looking forward to that. But then we also have 2 major DLCs, one being for Indiana Jones, which that's
Yep.
probably the one that's going to be at Keeley's show.
Yep.
And then possibly the Starborn stuff for Starfield.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
they have not just new games, not just remasters like we're hearing about, like maybe a Fallout 3 type of deal, but they have a lot of their DLC and expansions and things like that. And Diablo's still going to have expansions. World of Warcraft is still going to have its expansions and stuff. So yeah, there's plenty to go around. But I think the June showcase for Xbox themselves will be mainly focused on their first party titles with, 2 or 3 surprises of either day and date Game Pass or partner things. I keep hearing something about Ubisoft where I know they've had their struggles as far as finances or whatever, but I still believe that there's something Splinter Cell related, and maybe it makes its appearance on, Xbox's stage, or maybe we get to see a sneak peek of what Division 3 might bring to the table. I think it's a little early for that, but that's where all the Division games has made its appearances on Microsoft stage. So we'll see.
It's going to be very interesting and very exciting if you're an Xbox fan, and even more so if you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, because the more games that they announce that are first party, the more games that they have partnered deals with are likely going to show up at on not only at the showcase but on your subscription service known as Xbox Game Pass. So it is a winner chicken dinner for all Xbox fans. And I think there's going to be a lot to celebrate in a couple of weeks. But look, ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to do is, I consistently forget about it. And you know what? As a good partner, I got to show it because I spent the money to get the commercial made. And of course, I'm talking about the Volare Gaming Pillow. Now, if you didn't know, they have teamed up with Bethesda, which is pretty impressive. They are a mom and pop kind of an organization, very similar in scope and scale. Obviously it's a husband and wife that run, and a brother that run the Volare Gaming Pillow Company. If you didn't know, they're very small, and they just put out there, and I helped get the word out that they have a line of Doom pillows, and that's perfect timing because everybody's playing, and I know that I'm playing. Well, I took a break from it after getting 950 gamer score out of 1,000. That last 50, my God, that's going to be some trouble. Not that it's difficult, it's time consuming because there are each level has a thing you have to do with a weapon, and then there's a mastery, and some of the masteries I've already done, and there's some of them have like you got to do every weapon, and I'm like, oh my God, that's going to take forever. So I needed a palate cleanser, and last night for some reason I couldn't sleep. So I got up and I played the MVC, Marvel vs. Capcom that released on Xbox, and I played through the Punisher side-scrolling beat 'em up at 2:00 in the morning. I played as Punisher first, and then as Nick Fury second. I had a great time. I unlocked a bunch of achievements. I needed a bit of a palate cleanser, and I want to go back to Expedition 33, but Am I the only one that feels that way? Like you spend so much time on a game that is just, your mind's in it. Like I was making sure, I don't know if anyone's been doing this, but when I went to a level in
Mhm.
Doom, I spend hours in a level trying to get every secret. So I
Yeah.
think I'm close to 60 hours of play and I got 950 out of 1,000. I think what I'm going to do is I need some mind numbing fun. I'm going to go back to Call of Duty for a bit and just start shooting people again because
Yeah.
I gotta continue to play. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time last night at 2 o'clock in the morning, which old men shouldn't do, but it was great playing as the Punisher. That side scrolling beat 'em up is dope. That came out in like 93. I can't believe we're actually playing it.
Mhm.
Just real quick before we get to the commercial, Capcom, if you're listening, I know you watch the show. I've been told. Can we get Aliens versus Predator to side scrolling? For the love of the gaming gods, please release that freaking game. Right now, Alien is hot. Right now, Predator's got a new movie coming out. It would be the perfect time. Spend the money on the license and I'll buy it. Make it physical. I'll even buy a physical copy. That would be dope. But so look, like I was saying about Valari, when they came to us a couple of years ago, I was very skeptical. And as someone that does suffer from back injuries, listen, I have a whole lot put holding me together. And sometimes, like I said, for me, I find myself kind of hunching a little bit, and that's painful for my back. And when they said, "Hey, try this pill," I was like, I don't know so much about that. Kind of gave them the stink eye, and then I used it, and it works, folks. So we worked with them for a couple of years and then they came to us and they said, "Hey, listen, we want to do a double barrel gaming pillow," which is just crazy. Like honestly, that's a really big deal. Seeing your brand that you've created from nothing, and here it is, someone wants to work with you and put that label on theirs. It's just crazy. So here's the quick commercial, folks. Just take a look at it. It's 30 seconds and it stars me and my nephew Tyler. Again, if you are interested in potentially getting one of the pillows, you can type in the code DBG at checkout and you'll save, or DBG15 at checkout, and you'll save 15% off your total order. Take a look at it. And there you go. 30 seconds in and out, folks. Again, the code is DBG15 at checkout. You'll save 15% off your total order. And that is the new song that sometimes I forgot. I finally loaded up onto every one of the shows. I like it because it sounds like they're racking a shotgun, which obviously works with double barrel gaming. So I actually cut that track. So it sounds pretty good now that I've done it live on the air. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to check out the commercial. Again, if you're interested, DBG15 at checkout, and you can get your own double barrel gaming pillow, or you can see what they're working on with Bethesda and their first set of pillows right now are Doom, and that is pretty dope. But Fuzzy Belvedere, we got to get into the second topic. Now, this one has me very excited because it's what I've been waiting for. And topic 2, ladies and gentlemen, is an announcement from Avowed, the game. That's right. Obsidian put out a tweet at the end of last week. Again, there was just so much news. I did not get around to it. But if you are someone like me who absolutely adored every second of your time in Avowed and want more Avowed, well, I think we're going to get it in a big way. I think that this is a franchised game. This is going to be like Fallout. This is going to be like Skyrim, Elder Scrolls. It's going to be like what you would expect from Bethesda. I think that this really hit or struck a nerve with RPG fans who are, of course, fans of Obsidian. And obviously, the Outer Worlds, they had one. At the end of the year, we're getting two. It looks to be even bigger and better than the original. And I would imagine that with the response of the community, the gaming community that actually played this game, I'm happy to see that they listened to our feedback. So let me just read to you. This is the updated roadmap, Fuzzy Belvedere and chat. And this is what they have. Now this is spring 2025, obviously, which is now. Everything on this list is live right now. And they have an arachnophobia safe mode, which I think is dope because there are a lot of spiders in this thing. I mean, a lot. And if you don't like spiders, you probably were like, yeah, I'm not playing this game. I don't like spiders. But now there is an arachnophobia safe mode, which I think is dope. I don't know if they're blobs like they are in Grounded, but again, this is the same developer. I like the fact that they are listening to the feedback of people that actually suffer from this. Like, if arachnophobia is a real thing, folks, and people get super freaked out by spiders, I love the fact that they are listening. Well, they added mouse and keyboard support for Xbox. If that's your bag, certainly not mine, but if it is yours, you can now play with a mouse and keyboard. There is an improvement to the fog of war, meaning that one of the things that I think drove poor Umbra crazy is that you had to get like super in a corner to get the fog to get off, and he wanted, like, he's obsessive like that. And I don't blame him. He's a completist. That's okay. But I think they've made adjustments where if you're in the vicinity, you don't have to throw your character into a corner and then get stuck, right? To break out the fog of war. They have added more gold and crafting materials. That's really good. I like that they added that. Soul pods will now dispel illusions. As well as unique gear improvements, which I think they definitely needed to do some improvements to the gear. So, Fuzzy, I want to move on to what is expected to be released this summer, summer 2025. Here is the listing, folks. Cooking and crafting improvements. There's going to be new NPC abilities and behaviors, new active and passive abilities, which is awesome. New unique weapons and armor. Yes. And and this is a big one. It's subtle, but it is a big one, especially if you are looking for particular things and you know where they are on the map. Custom map markers. I think that is huge. Again, it's quality of life stuff. It may not mean anything to someone that's just gonna A-line it. And like, I don't care about the NPCs. I don't care about my armor. I just want to kill things. And they just want to do their story and be done in 12 hours. That maybe none of this matters to you. For people like me and Umbra, it matters because a lot of the stuff is like the improvements that need quality of life improvements that you want. Here is what I was hoping would be in the front. Unfortunately, it's on the back end, and we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Fall 2025. Here is what is happening, and I like it. First of all, I have been calling for this, folks. You watched the channel. You know this is already my game of the year. It's still my game of the year, and to wait till the end of the year to get this, the new Game Plus. This is something that did not launch with this game when it came out at the beginning of the year in February, but they heard our cries and our pleas, and they are responding in kind by adding it by the end of the year. There is going to be, and this is another big one, is it really necessary? No, but Obsidian listens to the fans. They're adding a photo mode. Yes, for the gaming gods, we can take photos. I love it. Now there's going to be a new weapon type. Now it doesn't say types, meaning there's going to be multiples, Fuzzy, but there's a new weapon type. What that is, I don't know. Changing appearances in the world. I like that.
Yeah.
New character presets, which I think is good for people that want more choice. More godlike features present. Okay, that's fine. There is one additional thing that they have not added. I have not seen it in here, and I do wish that it actually happened. So, like in Expedition 33, you got to be super careful when you go to your camp, because if you go to your camp to reset your health and everything, the world resets. So you go back, if you're going past, you have to go past something that was like a real pain in the ass to beat. You got to think twice about that, because you will have to fight it again. What I wish Avowed would add, and I know that people from Obsidian listen to the channel. I've been told this, and I cannot thank that team enough for actually listening to this small ass podcast. But I wish that every time you went to the camp, the bad guys respawned, because you would be able to level up, you'll continue to level up your characters and your companions, and that's not listed here. I hope that they do at least add it at some point, or at least add it to its sequel. Fuzzy, let's get your thoughts on all of these updates.
Well, they don't have the enemy reset, but they do where you can pass time. I don't know if doing a full day wait at the camp, because I guess that was one of the things that they put on their website, but they didn't put into the bullet points and stuff like that.
Okay.
I think that might help with like if you want to just constantly level up like certain weapons or your character in an area, and just get those enemies to respawn and just have at it a few times.
Yes.
I think you might be able to do it, but you'll have to do like a past time type of thing.
Awesome.
But the big things are, well, it's not a big thing, but it's one of those fan asks features, being the photo mode coming this fall. Definitely looking forward to that. And as you've been saying, the new game plus, which gotta wait till fall, but definitely a perfect time for a replay or another playthrough kind of thing. Being able to keep all of your abilities as opposed to starting a new type of thing and just build from there. There were a couple of other ones that I'm looking forward to. So I think it is great, like you said, for the arachnophobia mode. It is going to be like orbs or blobs, kind of like what Grounded had.
Yes.
So they hey, that's going to be one of those things they could probably patent as their own tech. But yeah, that's a great thing for those that are a little bit squeamish about spiders, because there is quite a few that can be annoying in this game. But I use those to just get materials and level up and stuff like that. But the Fog of War, that was a big one, because I have that same OCD aspect with the map. It's like I gotta, like, there's a point in one of the towns where it's like trying to get behind the building.
Yes.
And actually there was a spider back there, and it's like,
is that the shanty town you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes. You see? Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I'm like, what's back there? And it's like trying to get back there. It's like, so this will definitely ease my mind, getting through some of the towns and some of the areas where it's like, okay, I can't quite get there, or I haven't figured out the passageway that goes under the tunnel or under the ground or what have you. But the Fog of War stuff is cool. And then the fact that they're going to have it where you could do the custom markers, I think that's coming in the summer. Like after playing Shadows, where you have, I think it's 5 or 6 markers that you could place on the map. I kind of want that in my life now. Like much like what Avowed did with the quick switch for the weapon loadouts and things like that. The custom markers is another quality of life thing that needs to be in all RPGs moving forward, type of deal. But the fact that this game, I don't think they initially had any like DLC or any additional plans set for it, but the fact that it's done well within Game Pass, and the player count and player base has been so enthusiastic playing through this, they had to see that, yeah, there's enough of a fan base here to go ahead and revisit some of the things that were suggestions or critiques and such like that. And I'm glad that they're doing that. And hey, this definitely tells me that a sequel is in the future, or in the cards for the future. But in doing this, we'll get to see what other things they might show us before they move to an Avowed 2 type of deal. But awesome game, making it even better for the fans. Hopefully it doesn't get snubbed at the Game of the Year announcements. I know one of the things that was in Game Pass with Expedition 33, that's pretty much a lock right now as far as being a nominee. Same thing with was it Splitgate?
Split Fiction.
Split Fiction. That one's probably also a lock for a nomination, but I think Avowed deserves to be in the conversation as well. But man, it's awesome to see Obsidian, taking care of the fans, continuously building on their titles. And we got Outer Worlds 2 to look forward to later on this year. Man, they're cooking. Like they are what we've always kind of compared them to, like Insomniac for PlayStation, how they've kind of carried PlayStation. Obsidian has been carrying a lot of the weight, and they've been knocking it out of the park with a lot of the stuff they've been doing. So happy to see that they get continued support for Avowed. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, the game is a banger. It really is. Again, maybe open world RPGs or open hub RPGs aren't your bag. If it's not, I get it. I hear, but I think most people that are RPG fans will happily admit that Obsidian is one of their favorite developers. Now, again, for me, I've said this numerous times. My favorite game from Obsidian was Fallout New Vegas. That has now moved to second place, and Avowed is my favorite Obsidian joint. And of course, they've made a lot of great games, but for me personally, I really loved every second about Avowed. And the reason why I loved it so much is I don't really watch other people's gameplay. That's not really my thing. I would rather actually play the game myself. But with that said, there is something to be said about watching other people's clips, which I did. And I wind up, there were a couple of times where I actually said to myself, did I play this game wrong? Because I originally picked to go to the build of a warrior, which is usually what I go, right? I usually like just give me a sword and a shield, and I just hack away and it's fine. And then I found out how amazing the magic it was and how quickly you could just be a complete badass with the magic, right? So I switched everything. I respect everything, and I was like, and of course I did have some, physical weapons, but I like the magic stuff. I like the wands, I like the books, I love all of it. So, but I watched some people play from even like using like from the archer point of view. I'm like, my God, that looks amazing. I didn't know you can do that. And it's this game. I've said this before in my review. I'll say it again. Avowed is the type of game that, depending on what you put into the game, is what the game will return to you, right? I think the more you put in, the more you get on the back end. So I'm happy to see that this had such a great response from the gaming community, not just from Xbox players. I mean, literally from the gaming community. There were a few people that the naysayers that just hate everything. I don't even know why they play games. It's ridiculous. Nothing's good enough for them. But I loved every second of it. I love the fact that a lot of the quality of life things that Obsidian has listed here are because we have asked for it. The new game plus and the photo mode, I really wish that was now, but at least it's been announced. And yes, we will be getting it on the back end of the year. And unfortunately, why I wish it was now is because I probably would have jumped back into, even though I have Expedition 33 to play, I really wanted to kind of try and get the 1,000 out of the 1,000 achievements. I got a good portion of it. But there's a lot of stuff with the companions that I couldn't get because there wasn't enough enemies to kill, right? Like there just wasn't enough. And I wanted them, like, I'll go back to the camp, respawn everything, and just grind it out. I don't mind that. I don't mind doing that. But unfortunately, that's not happening until, the new game plus to the end of the year. And by then, we're going to be inundated with games. By the end of the year, it's just like, how am I going to play Avowed and be playing the Outer Worlds 2? Like I'm not going to be able to do this. It's just too much. But you know what? Great topic for everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it enough to hit the like button. We have 675 people watching live. That is amazing. 681 now. So I'll tell you where all these views are coming from. We have 400 on YouTube, 283 on X, and one person watching on Twitch. Hello, Twitch viewer. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Appreciate it very much. Let me catch up on the super chats here, and then we will get into the last topic. Now, this one is gaming/film, because we're talking Gears of War and the huge update for who's directing and who's writing. And I got to tell you, folks, get ready for a Gears of War that's going to slap, which is I'm very excited for. You're not going to get the, and again, I got some thoughts and theories as to why it took this long and why they really took their time on the writer, on the director. We'll get into who's doing it, what they've done in the past. And even though I know people are like, oh my God, it's Netflix. Netflix is just paying for this thing. Microsoft and the coalition is the one that sat down to make sure that this is going to be directed and written properly. They're working hand in hand. We'll get into all of that in a second, but we do have a super chat. First one of the day comes from our very generous brother, Adidas20 drops an outstanding $2 super chat. He goes, salute and congratulations on the milestone, Mr. and Mrs. Boom. Brother, salute to you and thank you so much for the kind words, the congratulations, and of course the generosity. Yeah, 7.5 million of anything, which I wish was in my bank account for dollars. It's not. But I'll take the views. We'll take the views. It's still successful. We have a new channel member, Lad. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member. We appreciate that, brother. That is very kind of you and very generous as well. Mac22 drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says, sorry, Boom. 1 time is a mistake. 4 times is a pattern. Of course, he's referring to Bungie being accused of stealing art assets. Yeah, that's a leadership problem over there. But again, that just kind of lines up with what's been going on with Sony the last couple of years. It just hasn't been good, folks. And this is just another, it's just another feather in the cap of not a feather you want in your cap. I'm sorry. I just think that they are in a pickle. And this does not help Marathon at all. I've already seen people trying to boycott the game because of this. I've already seen people out there saying they're not buying the game because of this. Now, that could be trolls, and that could just be, people on Xbox who want to, rah-rah this negativity. But I do think that there is something to it. I think that the leadership at Bungie is just so poor, and they seem so focusless with their stuff. And again, we'll talk about it tomorrow. There's a story, I believe it was Paul Tassi that wrote it. And I think it's a follow-up story because he did one a couple of weeks ago where he said this game should be canceled. This one specifically breaks down how leadership has completely ignored the development, the team that's making this game on what people aren't going to like and what people are going to like. And apparently they didn't listen to him. And well, here we are. Marathon is, I hate saying it's going to be the next Concord, but the more you hear about this game, my God, it just might be. And that's bad. That is really bad. We have Do UK now, the broke boy insider, who's been a channel member for 10 months, brother. That's very kind of you and very generous of you, Will. We super appreciate it. He says, it's sad the media and PlayStation fanboys saying Doom's TDAs is a bad game because of the Steam player count, ignoring that there are 5 other ways to play the game. Yeah, I saw that. I know I saw some people in the chat been talking about Dreamcast guy doing a video. Look, here's the thing. The numbers are incomplete, and I don't think Steam numbers tell the entire story because you can, like Will said, you can play this on multiple locations and you can play through Game Pass. And there's, listen, when this game first launched in 2016, I believe it was. Is it 2016 or 2018? It might have been 2018. I think maybe it's 2016. When the reboot of Doom released, it had a Steam player count of like 44,000. This had 34,000. Now, of course, back then, there wasn't a Game Pass. That was a year before Game Pass came out. I don't think that they were owned yet, right? That didn't happen. So 44,000 people played the new Doom on Steam. 34,000 people played the Dark Ages on Steam. But there's a lot of factors that are not going into this conversation. Now, that actually changed considerably with Doom Eternal, because obviously coming off of the raging success that was Doom 2016, when Eternal came out, there was, I believe the number is 122 concurrent 1,000 players, which three times the original Doom. And obviously, this is a big drop off. But again, Doom Eternal wasn't a day and day game in Game Pass. So, I mean, there are a lot of factors. But of course, people are going to carve out the narrative that works with their negativity. Oh, Doom failed. Doom is it's a failure because 34,000 people are playing it on Steam. What about everybody else? What there are so many other avenues that have not been discussed. Do we have those numbers? I don't think they do. That's why they're painting this narrative. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Doom is a success. Day Reezy drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, wow, you might be onto something here, Day. He says, I bet Marathon will be gone faster than Concord. I think that game is getting delayed. I think it has to. And I don't know how much money it costs to make what they've done so far, but they probably spent a pretty penny. That's why leadership has changed. I don't know how much more leadership change can you bring. I just think Bungie is a shell of its former self, and I would even dare say that it's aligning with what happened with BioWare. The BioWare is, they're still a good studio, but they're not the same as what they used to be. I think Bungie's the same way. They're just not the same as they used to be, and this is obviously apparent. So we'll see what happens. We have James in the chat, who's been a channel member for 11 months. James, thank you so much for the support, brother. We super appreciate it. He says, I don't think Marathon will sprint off the shelves. I'll get me a coat. I mean, listen, I think that the problem with Marathon isn't that Bungie is a great developer, and they're probably one of the best at the shooting mechanics in the game. Now, I haven't played Destiny in a while. I don't know if things have changed, but I've always loved their shooting mechanics. Marathon's problem is that it is an extraction shooter, which is a niche type of genre. Not everybody likes those type of games. Here's the other problem. You're releasing a paid-for game that's a niche type of genre in an era where something like Marvel Rivals comes out and just envelops the entire community, and it's free to play. And why it's free to play? Because free to play games is what is selling, right? They put the game out there and people spend money on microtransactions. That's just what this is. If this was a free to play game, maybe it has a shot. I don't know. But when they say premium price, well, what the hell does that mean? 50, 60, 70, $80? I don't know, because they haven't said. And on top of that, you're dealing with something like Arc Raiders that came out and surprised and delighted everyone that played it. Again, not for me, but if you are an extraction shooter fan, I heard only good things about Arc Raiders. So now they're behind the eight ball. We'll see what happens. We have Nino Vistic, our generous friend, all the way from Hawaii. Aloha, kind sir, to you and the family. Hopefully you guys are doing awesome. He has gifted one Double Barrel Gaming membership, brother. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much for the support. Sorry, I had a motorcycle that's right outside the window that I didn't want to be on camera. Sorry. But listen, let's get into topic number 3. Now, of course, got to give credit where credit is due. This posting comes the way of Screen Time on X. And here are the Gears of War movie details, ladies and gentlemen. And it sounds very exciting. So the director, or it's going to be directed by David Litch. Now, if you don't know who David Litch is, well, he's done a couple of movies that you may or may not have heard of. Let's say John Wick being one of them, Fall Guy, Bullet Train, Atomic Blonde, Violent Night, which was awesome, Nobody 2. He's worked on all 4 of the John Wick films. He directed Hobbs and Shaw, and he also directed Deadpool 2. I don't know. I think he's a class A director. I may even say A plus director. Every film there was a freaking amazing. So I think the idea of getting someone that understands violence, and Gears of War is a violent game. This is the guy, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I did forgot to mention he did do Bullet Train. I didn't see that one. If anyone saw Bullet Train, throw one in the chat and let me know if it was good. I did not see that, but that's who's directing this. Okay, so let's get into what Screen Time had to say on who's writing the Gears of War film. Well, John Spathis, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Well, he wrote Dune 1 and 2. Those movies were bangers. So he also wrote the Minecraft movie. He wrote Doctor Strange, the first one. He also wrote Elite's Suits, which I never saw. Ted 2023. The Mummy with Tom Cruise. He wrote Prometheus. The Darkest Hour, which was dope. That's one of Josie's favorite films. And he also wrote Passengers, which I don't think I saw either. So he has wrote or written several really, really big films. And of course, two that jump off Fuzzy are Dune 1 and 2, and he's writing Dune Messiah. Let's talk about Gears of War.
Man, oh man! Like just the pedigree for both the writer as well as the director. I think right now that should solidify that it is going to be eye candy for those that want to see explosions, bullets, gore, like just out and out violence. So this is going to match what you would expect for a Gears of War show or movie. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised. I know a lot of people have a negative view on Netflix as far as them being the place where it lands, but they're more so the pocketbook, I guess you could say. And they may not be as generous as Amazon, but they definitely tend to stay out of the way. A lot of times it's just they more so have movies that may not agree with everybody's take on like reboots or refreshes on those. But that's more so a thing where they're pursuing as opposed to with what Microsoft has been doing. And we've said this on the previous podcast. They've taken the time to, from what they've learned with the Halo series, which, you know, season 2 definitely
Great
an improvement in many people's eyes. They've taken the criticism and had things adjusted accordingly. Like if you look at Fallout and how well that's been doing, where the source material is front and center without it having to be a reiteration of the actual story. Everything kind of fits in and can be canon without it, you know, replicating the actual games themselves, but it feels like it's in that same universe and true to form. And I think this is going to be the case when it comes to the Gears of War show on Netflix. I think they'll, I think they know the fan base is going to be very vocal if they don't follow the actual lore of it. But I think they're going to want to, you know, represent it in a way, especially now that you have Gears of War Reloaded coming to PlayStation or coming to more platforms. They're going to want people to understand why this game was so popular for 20 plus years on this platform, and a bit of the history or insight in what, you know, draws everybody to the key characters. So I think in that sense, this is going to be like a love letter to Gears of War fans. I think these the talent that they're using to bring this to life is going to be, you know, key to it. I don't know if Batista winds up being Marcus or not, but whether he is or not, I think they're going to follow what you can expect as a Gears of War fan to be in this show. But that pedigree for the cast, or as far as the writer and director, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see how this turns out, because Bullet Train, I love that movie. Just it was a mix of comedy and John Wickness kind of thing.
I have to watch it. Everyone's saying it's a great film. How the hell did I miss that film?
But yeah, it kind of flew under the radar. I think I watched it like the week after it came out or premiered on Netflix, and I was like, oh, this is actually a lot better than what I was thinking it was going to be. But same thing with like looking at Dune 1 and 2. I think this is going to stay true to the lore. It's going to stay true to what you can expect for this type of game. But man, I love the fact that Microsoft is using more of their IPs. Sure, the Minecraft one might be a left field thing, but they've even learned from that as far as the popularity of some of their IPs. Um, and even though that one may not, follow the game altogether, but they have it where they've done a great job of integrating some of the characters into some of the skins for Minecraft and such, and going and having some of those inside jokes that people that play Minecraft a good bit have come to adore in that movie. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Easter eggs that they put in this show for Netflix and stuff. But man, oh man, this is a great time to be an Xbox gamer, and the fact that our IPs are now, on the big screen or outside of your console on a big or your big screen at home. I think this is a perfect IP for them to test the waters with some more, and hopefully deliver here, fairly soon. I don't know if this is going to be for next year or the year thereafter, but looking forward to it either way.
So I have some thoughts about the Gears of War film, and I know that in the story they specifically broke down that the Gears of War film that is being directed by David Litch is coming after the anime, the adult
Mhm.
anime, the rated R anime, which is in production right now. I think that happens next year for the anime, and then of course the following year you can get the film.
Yeah.
So here are my thoughts onto its importance. You made mention of the mistakes from Halo. Now, yes, season 2 was way better, but was it perfect? It was not. I think that I get from a story perspective about trying to humanize Master Chief, right? But he is a Spartan with, he just does what he does. And I think that if the entire series of season 1 would have been that opening episode where they opened up just shooting the shit out of the Covenant, that's what we were all wanted, right? And unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of it. We got Mr. Cheeks. We got a sex scene, which I didn't expect in Halo, but it was there. So be it. It is what it is. He got to get his groove on. I guess to kill more Covenant, whatever. That's fine. But I think the failings of the first 2 seasons and I'm not saying failings, and I didn't enjoy it. Mrs. Boom and I watched both seasons, and season 1 was good. It was supposed to be great though.
Mhm.
Season 2, way better, very good. And towards the end, it started hovering with the greatness. I hated the fact that he kept taking his helmet off. Like someone's gonna pop this guy in the head and he's done. That's it. Master Chief dead. I hated that. But whatever. I think the unenthusiastic fan review of it
Mhm.
made them say, yeah, we got to take our time with this. We got to find the right director who is going to at least make the game, make the film like the game, right? Violent,
Yeah.
pointed, with a story. Marcus Phoenix, Dom, we need to know Coltrane. We need to know about all of them. Where in the timeline, I don't know. Maybe it's an original tale, which I kind of hope it is. I don't want to see the game as a movie. We're playing the game. We don't need to see that. Give us a part of the timeline that we've never seen before. That's what I want. I think the success of Fallout really does set up how they wanted this film to be. And whether you guys and gals know or not, Netflix did pick up the Halo series. So they have Gears and they have Halo. I would imagine that the same tenacity to get a director and writer that understand the game. That was one of the things that I absolutely hated about the writing team from Halo. Well, we've never played the game. Well, you're fired. See, that's what if I'm Microsoft, I walk into, I think it was Paramount at the time, fire them. They've never played the game. What are we doing here? So that was the downfall immediately. But We can't change the past, folks. Halo season 1 and 2 happened, and you know something? There were a lot of actual normies that liked it. That's because they didn't understand Master Chief. Fine. If you enjoyed it and you're a normie, awesome. But that's not the kind of Halo I think we want. We want Master Chief, jumping out of in space, flying out of the airlock with a bomb to then kick onto a Covenant ship. That's what the kind of Master Chief that I want. But maybe one day. Maybe one day. So shout out to Moonlight Ace, who that's what I was laughing before, who promptly called me out for camping. You have to camp on that particular board because you're trying to defend the bomb. Of course you have to camp. Most of the time I'm running around with a shotty just shooting people in the face. How dare you, sir? Moonlight, thanks so much for being here, brother. Super appreciate it. So I mean, again, look, I think that Xbox is positioning themselves in a way where an Xbox game is going to see. I always talked about transmedia being such an important part of gaming, right? And transmedia really is a wide stroke, folks, because you're talking about anime, you're talking about graphic novels, you're talking about comics, toys, models, right? Statues, which I have in front of me here. But you got TV, you got film, you got game. And Microsoft isn't going to buy WB to make their own stuff because WB is a shit show right now. I wouldn't get that for a quarter of the price because you're buying into some really poor leadership. And it's just a shit show over at WB. So they're working with partners. Obviously, Paramount wasn't the right partner. Netflix seems like it's going to be the right one. And just based on who's writing and who is directing the Gears film, it's going to hit like a ton of bricks. You got the anime, who I don't know who's doing it. And I don't know if it's an anime or is it just an animated series, but it's rated R. So it's going to be gory. It's going to be just what you would expect. And it's hitting at the right time because you got Gears of War Reloaded, which is being introduced to millions of PlayStation players that may or may not have played or even know what Gears of War is. Maybe they've heard about it, but because PlayStation is filled with normies, that's the majority of people that have PlayStation 5s. Yes, there is a subset of hardcore and even hardest of hardcore, but most people that have a PlayStation 5 right now are like the normies, man. That's the casual audience. And if they go and they play Gears of War, or they're a Netflix fan and they watch Gears of War, maybe they go and buy the game, right? Because this Gears of War, this is awesome, right? And so I think that the timing is perfect. You get the anime. A lot of people like animated stuff. Animated stuff sells. You got a $50 release, a remake of the original Gears of War that started the whole thing. And that's coming to PlayStation for the first time. A lot of OGs like me don't like it, but that's what the way the business is, then so be it. So if this game hits and the anime hits, and next year is Gears of War E-Day, which is really where it started. And then, of course, next year you get the anime, and then the following year you get the film. Buzzy, we're talking about franchise, right? Outside of just Xbox. And that's super important for Xbox. Not so much for me. Like the money that they make ain't filling my coffers, but at least the franchise that we thought was going to potentially die on the vine because we haven't had a Gears in a long time is coming back in a really big way. Let's see. Let me catch up on super chats and we will get everyone out of here. We are at the $1.15 mark. We have a super chat from Do You K Now, the Broke Boy Insider, an additional, very generous $10 super chat. He goes on to say, we'll say it here so I remain consistent. Steam player counts are pretty much irrelevant for Xbox and PlayStation first-party games because they ignore the primary platforms that those games are played on. That is a freaking monster-sized fact. Again, you know who the people are, folks. They make videos. Xbox is dead. Xbox is not making enough money. Their consoles are not selling. They're dead. Third party, they're dead. Their Steam numbers low, they're dead. Like I said, all jokes aside, they've died more times than Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Michael Myers all together. Like it's crazy how they continue to just dominate the sales on other people's platform, i.e., PlayStation, and we haven't even got to Switch 2 yet, and they're dead. It's listen, put these knuckleheads on the pay no mind list and don't get yourself aggravated. Again, we don't do the names thing, but his name was mentioned, so I'll say it. Guys like Dreamcast guy, listen, I got no beef with that dude, but he does content that I do not like. And he probably doesn't like my content. He probably doesn't even know who the hell I am. And that is okay. Don't pay attention to people like that. Just block them and just make sure that they're not in your feed. You'll be a better gamer not having that kind of negativity come across your feed in YouTube and on the socials. But Fuzzy Belvedere, with that said, I just want to say a big thank you to you for being here, as you always are, Mondays and Fridays. A big thank you to 762 people watching live. That is amazing. Of course, I don't know how many of you, of the 762 people that are here still, are not subscribed. Now, if you're all subscribed, that's pretty dope. But if you're not, Mrs. Boom and I are 51 subscribers away from 16K. May not be a big deal for you, but it is a really, really big deal for us. So if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. Again, we're going to have some really big coverage coming in June for all of these showcases. I'm flying out to LA on a Friday. I'm flying back on a red eye on Sunday, and I'm covering everything live from boots on ground. And of course, we usually get a lot of subs that way, but we'd like to hit the 16K before we get there, because then we can turn around and say, hey, we have 16,000 subscribers. It'd be a big deal for us. But of course, a big thank you to all of the super chats, as well as the gifted memberships and the members that are still supporting the channel behind the scenes. Mrs. Boom and I are incredibly grateful for that. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's sell your brand where people can subscribe to your YouTube channel, follow you on social media, but we're also doing a push to get the wife to 1K on her horror-based podcast called Fright Night with Ferocious V. Friday evenings. I believe that you're back this week. Yep. Silent Cypher, yourself, her, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Where can people subscribe? Where can people follow her on social media? Tell us what we need to know, brother.
Well, as always, thank you for having me on. Greatly appreciate being on here on Mondays with you, whether it's breaking news or just gaming news in general. Like, this is like our gamers Christmas time period, and we got the showcase right around the corner. So looking forward to the coverage on that and everything that Xbox is going to have here in the next few months for the remainder of the year leading into next year. And then just gaming in general, because I'm still looking forward to Ghost of Yotai as well. But for everybody here in the chat, greatly appreciate you guys checking us out. Once again, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. We greatly appreciate it. I also dropped my link for my YouTube in the chat. Also dropping the one for my wife's YouTube for Fright Night with Ferocious V. We're just getting back from watching some filming, learning a lot as far as for an upcoming movie in the near future. But if you're a horror fan, whether it's zombies, supernatural, ghost tales, anything in that realm, definitely check out her podcast on Fridays at 6 p.m. We missed it 2 Fridays ago, but we will be visiting Studio 666 with the Foo Fighters, a horror movie by the band. Looking forward to discussing it. Always a good time to be in the chat. Just chat back and forth with us on your thoughts on the movie or just horror movies in general. But as always, you can always find my rambles and rants on social media. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere. You'll be able to find me. But looking forward to seeing everybody here in the chat today for Friday for Breakfast with Boom at 10 a.m. this Friday. And then hopefully Fright Night with Ferocious V at 6 p.m. this Friday as well. But take care. Enjoy this week. Probably a lot of gaming news is going to be popping up here and there. But yeah, we got some more Doom to play and a lot of other titles to catch up on the backlog. So looking forward to it.
Backlog is ridiculous. Shout out to Game Pass Dad in the chat. Salute to you, kind sir. You got to let us know when you're free. We get you back on here so you can talk gaming with us as you've done before. Ozzy Fan 66 says, great show, Boom and Fuzzy. Brother, that's very kind of you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. By the way, we are 46 subscribers away. Holy shit, we're getting close. Thank you so much for subscribing. Anyone that's newly subscribed, we do greatly appreciate it. And of course, we're going to close the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.